Hello friends, today we will talk about how to win in a conflict without making enemies in business and in life. Okay, let's get into it. The goal of the conflict is to win without your opponent feeling that they lost it. What does the word conflict mean? A conflict is a battle of interests, ideas, principles, or beliefs between at least two people. And you are aware that it takes two to fight. Maybe the first question you should ask yourself is, do you really need to enter into a conflict? Or would it be better to avoid it? The answer then would be, it depends. For example, if your current situation at work or at home makes you feel like a slave and you are fine with that, then you don't need to enter into a conflict. However, if you believe that you have to stop someone from constantly humiliating or verbally abusing you, and you feel that you have very little or no rights, then a fight may be the right solution. If this is the case, you have to prepare for that conflict with your opponent. It's good to know if your boss, colleague, or spouse is trying to provoke you into a conflict and you know that you are 100% right regarding something important, and especially if you need to defend your personal interest, you will need the necessary skills to win that conflict. Let's break it down, how to enter the conflict in a correct way. There are different ways to enter a conflict. As a rule, most conflicts are predictable. That's why before entering into a conflict, you should prepare for it and write down your key points that you want to argue about. What are some of the things you can do terribly wrong in a conflict? The main issue with a conflict is that you or your opponent may have what I would call emotional diarrhea, and the result of that can be as terrible and disgusting as it sounds. It's important to understand that you can't win a conflict if you let your negative emotions win over your logic. Some time ago, before I possessed conflict management tools at the college, I would make the same horrible mistakes over and over again. I would lose control over my emotions, and at that very moment, I would lose the conflict. It's important to understand that a calm person has more chances to win in a conflict. What should you do in order to manage your emotions during the conflict? Step number 1. One of the tools is this identification with your emotional flow. How do you achieve that? Imagine that you are observing your own conflict from the outside. When you feel that you are about to lose control over your emotions, simply say your name first and then say stop. Stop your emotional diarrhea and take things under control. Take your attention away from what you hear to who is in front of you. You have to exit from your emotional flow consciously and change your focus. For example, turn your attention to the clothes of your opponent, their hairstyle, hair color, teeth, nails, and even smell. Try to imagine what kind of person they were when they were a child. Or you can imagine that you are on a boat during a big storm. Imagine hearing everything: the howling wind, the roaring waves, the thrashing noises from the boat rocking, trying to throw you into the deep and dark and cold ocean. The big sails are your emotions. You have to manually manage and pull down those sails, your emotions, in order to survive in a big storm or win in a conflict. Also pay close attention to nonverbal communication of your opponent. Their body language, facial expressions, eye contact, and voice tone. Look at their leg or arm positions. Just looking alone at their posture and leg positions can tell you a story. When you pay attention to the whole picture, you may sense that their words do not match their feelings. Then ask yourself, what is your opponent feeling right now? What is your opponent's goal in the conflict? You also have to understand clearly what is your goal in the conflict. What is really going on with your opponent? What is the real reason that makes your opponent behave this way? What will you gain by being an observer in a conflict? You will gain power and control. You will be able to successfully use your intellectual resources against your opponent. You will have a calmness and a cool head. This will help you to win in a conflict. The step number 2, listen to your opponent.
Listen what I say to you right now. Listen to me.
Let them release all their anger, because an angry person is never able to hear another person. It's good for you to know how long anger actually lasts. According to a Harvard-trained and published neuroanatomist, Dr. Taylor, your anger should only last for 90 seconds. Isn't interesting? Of course, on different individuals this time may vary. So now that you know that in general anger should only last for 90 seconds, this knowledge should give you power. All you have to do is just patiently wait. It's also important to understand that you don't need to end the conflict during the first meeting. It may be just the beginning, and you can end it at another meeting. You may need to adjust the number of meetings due to the complexity of each situation. When you play the role of an observer and a passive listener in the conflict, it is much easier for you to see when your opponent has finally emptied out all of their anger. When you see that your opponent is tired, their voice tone will get quieter, pausing more. Then they will turn to a more logical argument, and their speaking pace will slow down. When you notice all these signs, then you can say to them, I understand what you are saying. Then repeat in your own words what your opponent just said to you. It will make them feel calmer as well. Then ask them to confirm that you understood all of their points correctly. Only after they confirm it, you should start expressing your needs using a calm and soft voice tone. Most likely you will get what you want, because your opponent will feel guilty of all that they said and how they said it. This is how you win your conflict. The step number 3, say to them in a calm voice, I listen to you. Now, please listen to me. When you explain your points, never speak fast, yell, or speak in a loud voice. Remember, the louder you speak, the less you will be heard. Remember, your opponent is tired after releasing a huge burst of adrenaline and will not have enough strength to listen to a long revelation from you. Speak with a calm voice tone. Be short and straight to the point. Don't accuse your opponent or try to make him feel guilty. No need for that. All you just need to get your point across. So calmly explain what is really going on with you and express all your needs. Conflicts can be open and closed. Closed conflicts, so-called hybrid war. I don't have to explain about open conflict, you know that. A closed conflict is when a colleague might be reporting on you to your boss and accusing you of doing something you never did. One scenario might be that the real reason behind their accusation could simply be that the person they have a crush on likes you instead of them, and your colleague is simply jealous. This is why the false accusation arises. Practice your emotional disidentification in a normal conversation. The same applies when you're watching a movie. Watch it smartly. You can use movies to study conflicts of the main characters. What is the real reason that stands behind such conflicts? Always dig deeper to learn the underwater iceberg of a conflict. Always look into the depth of the conflict. What is behind the conflict? You can study conflict resolution by watching popular reality shows. Here you can observe and study the conflict and what the real reason that stands behind the conflict. Step number 4. In a situation when you are at an event doing your keynote speech and all of a sudden you get someone in the audience provoking you in a conflict, you can use the following tools. If someone asked you a provocative question, you can say one of the following. I prefer not to answer that right now. Or, with what purpose are you asking me this question? Or, if someone is literally putting you down in front of the audience, then you should break the pattern and do something that no one is expecting you to do. Ask the name of the offensive person and then simply invite him with you on the stage. The offender will not expect that. They may back up or may feel confused. You then can say to them, will you please repeat what you just said? If the person proceeds, then you can say, okay, is there anything else you would like to convey? Do this until the offender runs out of words, gets confused, and stops talking. Finally, you can say, thank you, their name, for your very interesting opinion, and ask them to return to their seat. You won't be bothered by them anymore because everyone is brave while at their own seat, but very few will be brave enough to speak the same when they get on stage or in front of an audience. The step number 5. In a situation when you are at an event doing your keynote speech, or you have open debates, or during an interview, let's say your opponent is provoking a conflict, the best weapon can be to just crack a joke. The joke shouldn't be offensive. A self-deprecating joke will work the best. Listen carefully to every word of your opponent and then see the right spot where you can tell your joke or make a humorous comment. A good joke can do magic. It immediately releases the tension between you and your opponent. Where can you find good jokes? Watch best stand-up comedians on YouTube, comedy movies, and in your daily life, train your brain to find funny things and immediately write it down. I do that for many years with great results. Position yourself as an observer in a conflict. This technique will help you to win the conflict. Always remember that not every battle is worth fighting. When your guts tell you to run away from that person, then don't argue. Just walk away from the conflict before it's too late. And here is the bonus for you. 48 hours rule. If someone said or did something to you and it's bothering you, wait 48 hours before bringing it up. I'm curious to know, how do you deal with a conflict? What methods work for you? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you like the video, share it with your friends and give it a like, as it's a virtual way to say thank you. Come to my consultations and I will teach you all these secrets. Live long, stay strong. Until next time.